and welcome back for a brand new exclusive Collider interview. This is for a movie that I'm really excited about. You both know I loved this at Sundance 2019. We spoke a little there, but I'm very happy right now to reconnect with Hannah Pearl Utt and Jen Tullock of Before You Know It. Hi. Hi. I have so many questions about just the journey from Sundance to where you guys are right now, but I was reading the new press notes, and there's a little bit in it that says that when you two first met, you didn't really, I don't know if get along is the right term, but after seeing this movie and just talking to you guys, it shocks me that there was any point in your lives where that was the case. So can you tell me about meeting for the first time?
For disdain.
In the press notes.
Yeah, we made
Take
sure.
note.
Just so everyone knows. You know what? It was just a comedy of errors is all it was. We met when we were very young in Brooklyn, and we were at a party, and Hannah thought that I was making eyes at her friend's boyfriend. She didn't know that I was a raging homo, and which would have cleared things up immediately.
I'm pretty sure you were in like a bedroom in the apartment.
We
with
were
him.
rehearsing.
They were rehearsing. They were in a band together. And I had
old chestnut.
less of an issue with her flirting with someone who was taken by my friend, and more of an issue with how disgusting I found him to be.
I'm almost certain he will at some point hear one of these interviews.
I don't care.
Cool. Anyway, once we had established that that was in fact not what was happening, then we got to talking and realized that we had similar sensibilities and that I wanted to borrow a lot of her clothes.
Yeah.
I feel
And
like
that's
borrowing
continued.
clothes is usually the key.
This sweatshirt is not mine. These pants are mine.
If you knew how much clothing I have from my poor sister who is in New York and has no chance of getting it back right now, it's a problem. She might hate me for it. What would you say out there to somebody who is a budding filmmaker and dreams of finding a close collaborator? Because going to film school, that was one thing that I really wanted, and I thought it was never going to happen. And then, luck of the draw, it was. I did. I found that person, and it's a special thing. So what would you say to someone who is concerned they might not find that?
It's okay if you don't find it. You can find it within yourself. But my advice would be to stay open to people. Give them a second chance. If at first you don't connect, try again.
And also don't be married to one hard version of a collaboration. I mean, ours has evolved so much over the years that it was one thing 6 years ago and is now a very different thing. But the bottom line is we trust each other and want each other's opinions on things. And
Yeah.
sometimes that's as far as it goes, and sometimes it's a little more literal. But I think working with people that understand your essence, that you'd want to be in the foxhole with, I think that's the
It's
most
the same as
important
finding
thing.
a romantic partner.
Yeah.
Find someone who communicates the same way that you do.
When you're crewing up a project, is it ever the idea that, you know, I'm just hiring someone to fill a position, or is an interview for you guys more like finding someone that kind of fits that family too?
Yeah, it's never just, unless we're in a super bind or we have to pick someone that the union gives us. We have to pick them. I pick you, the only person I'm allowed to
Number
hire.
43. Step forward.
But no, every meeting with every piece of production, I tried to meet with as many of those people as possible. Although I left the hiring of certain roles to department heads, and so making sure that me and my department heads were on the same page was very important. But yeah, it's about finding people. It's all about communication style for me. Like, can we understand each other? Do we see this story in a similar enough way as a kind of baseline, but then are we able to talk our way through where we may differ on that?
Makes sense. Did you guys always want to get into filmmaking, storytelling, performing, or was there ever a point in your lives where you said, I want to grow up and be like, I don't know, a doctor or a lawyer or something like that?
I didn't ever.
I wanted to be a
Boring.
visual artist for a while. And there was a year or two where I wanted to be an entomologist. And
I did dabble in painting when I was in
Can't
theater
imagine
school.
what
I did
inspired that.
dabble in painting, but was made quickly apparent to me that I was incredibly bad at it. So
I think I also like the idea of teaching for a while. I thought I might go into academia, but that's just part of the school that I went to. They just lead you to believe that every thought you have is really worthwhile.
similarly, until I left the evangelical church, I thought I was going to be a biblical scholar. for a while. But those were like teenage aspirations that I thought, well, if I can't make it as an actor and a writer, then I'll try something just as easy, which is to be a theologian.
Yeah, of course.
And so...
And I thought that I would be a comparative religion professor.
That's right. So really, we've sort of been pinging around the same delusion.
Oh yeah, this all makes a lot of sense. It puts into perspective my second major in Hebrew and Judaic studies that completely went out the window, and I remember nothing about that.
But I bet you're fun at a party.
I don't know if the two are connected, but I'm definitely fun at a party.
I bet you're fun on Birthright.
I never went on Birthright, and it is one of the biggest regrets of my life.
Did you miss your window?
I missed the window, but it was also because, I was always working and I always wanted to do something else. And I never had that free block of time that aligns with that trip.
You got to stop and live your life a little.
Sometimes. I feel like I live my life vicariously through movies right now, which isn't the worst thing because we were talking before. You get to travel all over the place.
This woman.
Okay.
I mean, you
I'll
already made a
Birthright.
movie about sisters who live together in New York City. I feel like you ticked that box for me already. I was also reading in the notes that you went through a whole bunch of drafts with this script. So I'm curious, what is the biggest difference between draft one and the final product?
Wow. I think it's the biggest difference between who we were then and who we are now, which is, I think we have a level of self-awareness and emotional intelligence that we were just beginning to develop when we started working on the script.
But really thought we had at that time.
Right.
I think perhaps a bigger difference is the fact that we thought we had it then and didn't, and hopefully have a little bit now and definitely don't think that we do.
That's right.
Yeah,
Although
I think that's just the 20s to the 30s. And then specifically, I would say it just got more honest.
Yeah, it was more of a farce and less personal before.
I was kind of surprised. It's just I vividly remember my first viewing, and it was a communal viewing, so it was a very loud reaction in that theater. People were laughing at all the right moments, and just rewatching it, I don't know, I guess I just didn't realize the first time around how powerful the drama is in it. And it works exceptionally well.
Thanks.
You guys went through the Sundance Lab with this one. How do you get started with that kind of process? Because we do have a lot of viewers and listeners who really want to make movies, and that seems like an excellent avenue for someone to get a feature off the ground.
Yeah, the labs are wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It's always funny recommending them because you're like, you've got to go to Juilliard. It's the best.
You've got to study at NASA. Honestly, just the most fantastic. And now we've compared it to Juilliard and NASA. I gotta go.
Yeah.
Hey, NASA's got a
Can't take
big
things
place
back.
in my heart.
No, we
Me
lucked.
too.
We lucked out. A lot of getting into the lab has to do with timing, and we didn't get in the first time.
Correct.
We were rejected for the Screenwriters Lab, and then separately for other labs.
For the episodic lab.
And our producer Mallory Schwartz applied with the same script that we had applied with months later and done a lot of work on to the creative producing labs. But that was after we had a short in the festival. So that was after we wrote and produced and were in a short film called Partners. And they do a really good job of tracking people who go through the festival. And also when you apply, they keep track of repeat appliers. Persistence counts.
Repeat offenders. They're like, okay, so you're...
Sorry, Sundance.
Persistence and ambition, it's all good things.
Let you in.
But they're very thoughtful in the selection process, and it's really about curating a group for that year based on previous years and who might fit well together, and they're tiny groups. Mm-hmm. So my biggest piece of advice is don't be discouraged if you get rejected. Just keep working on whatever you applied with and other stuff, and if the timing feels right, apply again.
So which lab did you wind up getting into with this project?
So the first one was the Creative Producers Lab.
Gotcha.
Then they put me through a mini workshop in LA for directing. And after that workshop, I asked to be considered for the directing lab, which is invite only.
Oh, wow.
They invite you to apply to it. So I invited them to consider me.
To invite her.
I invited them to invite me to apply. And then we did that, and Jen came out to act in the scenes. So that was the first week where we also met Judith. And then the last week is the Screenwriters Lab, which we did together. So we wound up doing all of them, but we did them sort of backwards. We kind of weaseled our way in there.
As long as it comes out with a finished
I was
film.
a stowaway, in essence, for the first week.
So you get into a lab. Does the lab come with the likelihood of a green light happening, or is that something that has to manifest along the way?
It helps. I think, it helps legitimize the project for sure. And Sundance has their own pool of investors that they've been cultivating for programs like Catalysts, which we also went through, which is a creative financing forum.
Catalyst Women, which was...
Right, Catalyst Women. It was
cool.
the first year that they did it just for female-led projects.
I just like the sound of creative financing. Financing is always the thing that stresses me out the most. The second you put creative at the beginning of it, then I'm a little more intrigued.
Yeah, the whole idea is that it is a give and take, and that you're looking for collaborators in your financiers, and your financiers are looking for, they need to know what they're looking for in terms of what they want to get out of their investment, because it's independent film, and you aren't oftentimes doing it to make a ton of money, so you must be doing it for other reasons as well. And so it's about identifying those reasons and making sure that they're aligned with the filmmaker's intent for the film.
What about the idea of making this in New York? Because having lived in New York, I was just walking around all the time saying, I'm never going to move to LA. I love it here. There's a huge industry here. But then I was encouraged over and over again to move out here. And I am happy out here, but I am always looking for a reason to go back and highlight the film industry there. So did you ever consider making movies out here more so? I mean, I know you were saying you're out here now.
Yeah, we both live here now, so, and we've lived here for a while. But we met in New York and both lived there for a long time.
Okay.
And so not only was the conception of this story in New York, but I think the version of ourselves that we were when we started working on it is very much left. The ghost of that is left in New York. And it's a movie about New York. I mean, it's very much about a family that's still living in this petri dish of old-timey, theater and Hollywood and music because the father won't allow them to step beyond it. And that felt like an inherently New York climate.
So when did you guys make the move out here? You met in New York. Did you make a couple projects in New York before going to LA?
Not together.
No.
No, right? Did we work together? I made my first short film in New York that I wrote and was in, and my friend directed.
And I did the same. I did a short that I wrote and was in.
And then that's when we started working on the script for this. Then I moved back to LA because I had done my first couple years of school out here. And at that point, it was kind of like any time one of us was on the other person's coast, we would dive back into the script and do another reading. That was like, this is just the last reading we're doing before we make the movie.
Next week.
8 years ago. And then we continued to work on our own projects in New York and LA and got into commercials, which is how we survived financially. And also how I financed my short films, basically how I created a miniature film school. And then we made Partners, and that was the first thing we actually filmed together because we wanted to see what it was like to act together. And we loved it so much that we took the chemistry we found between those characters and created a series called Disengaged with Super Deluxe, which unfortunately is not on the internet because the company went under, and so we don't know.
So did the links.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
But we're hoping to have them back up on another platform soon so people can see. You can watch the pilot currently.
Okay.
Yeah. The pilot,
Which would be a fun teaser.
Although, are the views still up there? It got over 1 million views, but I don't know if you can see that anymore.
And a lot of comments about my hair, as I recall. That's not true.
And
but you'll never know because it's been taken down.
it did have a lot of actually really, well, whatever. We play a couple in the series.
Oh, yeah. You haven't experienced rampant homophobia until you've gone into the YouTube comments on On a queer love story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you're on our channel, I don't want to tell you about the comment section, but it happens everywhere. And it's just about, making sure you're sending the right message no matter what the reaction is. And hopefully everybody's open to everything out there. Going back to what you guys said about just what happened with the distribution with that project, did that influence how you handle or look at some sort of distribution opportunity for a movie like this, especially coming out of a festival like Sundance? What were your expectations going into that premiere, and then were those expectations met when you walked away?
That's a cool question.
I think, we had a much different experience just by virtue of our connection to the film. My expectations, I think, were more abstract. I was just excited that people were going to see it, and was trying not to think beyond that. I think Hannah was required to have a bit more foresight because she directed the film. But I think as far as our collective energy at that time, it was like, we're so happy we made it. We're so happy people are going to see it. It's amazing we're at Sundance. Let's see. And then
I think we both tried to really temper
lower
our expectations. I didn't anticipate it being such a long process. We wrapped the movie, and maybe this won't sound long at all, but we wrapped the movie a year ago yesterday. And it's just now coming out in 10 days? I don't know what the date is. The 30th. It comes out the 30th. And we've been doing festivals all summer, and so I've been going to these different cities trying to spread word of mouth and establish a base all over, because it's going to be in 100 theaters, which is something I definitely didn't anticipate. But now, at the end of all of that, at the end of 8 months of traveling with the movie, it feels like the real work of promoting it is just starting. And that's hilarious. That's insane. But hey, that's the deal, and we're so lucky we
showbiz, baby.
get to promote it. So the expectations were exceeded definitely by the theater count that we have, and the fact that we have a theatrical release. And our distributors have been really collaborative and wonderful, and we've heard horror stories about people with their distributors, so we were coming into it with a lot of anxiety, and they've been great.
I've heard many of those, and also just with the changing landscape now, I am just sometimes I lose sleep over the idea of certain movies not getting theatrical releases anymore. And it's not to knock streaming services. They get movies in front of more eyes than they might have before, but I just never want to see that window close too much for smaller independent fare, and I fear that being the future.
Yeah. Well,
it felt right for this particular film, too. I mean, it would always be exciting. For one thing, I think in many regards we're a couple of Luddites, so the idea of being like, we must physically go to the theater, but also this film, I think does beat to, its heart beats to a rhythm that is very old school New York and feels very see the movie in the theater with popcorn and
it's I think it's good for different generations, and I think it could be a nice opportunity to hang with your, the young folk hanging with the older folk. I think it's a real. To me, it feels like a community building movie.
I could feel that. I think it comes through with the core location on its own. It's just like the theater house combo has like a texture to it that you could feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. People needing people.
Yeah.
People. I'll leave it alone.
I also wanted to ask you guys about the title of the movie, because that was another thing that I read, that the title changed. I'm always fascinated about finding out how someone landed on a particular title, especially something like Before You Know It. What was the Stupid Happy? Was that on the table at one point?
It was called Stupid Happy for a long time.
Yeah, which we maintain. It's a great title. It just no longer suited the movie, and we couldn't. When we thought about being asked why Stupid Happy, we couldn't come up with anything better than, well, it's always been called Stupid Happy. And so we wanted something a little more tonally appropriate. And Before You Know It, we came up with, we were in a bit of a bind. We had to give them a title.
And a rapid-fire text exchange with our producers while we were going to the festival.
Yeah, we were packing for Sundance.
Oh, wow.
No, that's not true.
We were going somewhere else.
Press release was about to come out.
That's right.
so we had to get them the title, and we picked a B by accident, but it did put us at the top of the press release, which was awesome.
That's not the first time I heard that.
It is a double entendre because it's a line from the film. Mike Colter's character, Mike, says it when he's repressing a feeling as opposed to addressing it. And what happens is before you know it, it'll fester. But also, it's literally what happened before Rachel and Jackie knew their mother was alive.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we felt like it encapsulated all of the characters' journey with communication and honesty.
I think that's a reasonable reason to go with that title.
Next time we're picking an A, though.
I've heard that many a times before, whether it's it being at the top of the Sundance list or even once a movie goes to VOD and you search the all film menu, it's listed
so funny.
alphabetically.
I wish I didn't know it. I wish I could unknow it, but it's in there now.
I'm going to name every project I make henceforth Anastasia. I don't care what it's about.
Or you need to go with digits for no reason at all. Just put like a 0 at the beginning.
Nice. Binary. Just binary.
I've thought about that way too much. How has your collaboration developed over the years, especially from first project to now? Writer, director, star, writer, star, but are you collaborating a lot while you're actually shooting the film too?
Yeah, we do collaborate while we're shooting.
It's nebulous, but in a way that's also really lived in. I mean, I think trying to explain it to people probably sounds way more abstract than it is, but because we figured out what worked for us over the course of a decade, it was never the same two things on any given day. I think it was about 5 years. When we made this short, that's when we realized Hannah's trajectory was going to be to direct, and more importantly, that she was going to be directing this film. And that at that point, that informed the way we continued to write. So we had written in a way that was looked a lot more like volleying the work before. She'd write, I'd edit, and vice versa. And then once we realized she was going to be at the helm of the film itself, it became easier to just let her take first passes and start to structure story, and then I would come and punch in, which isn't necessarily how we both work in other collaborations, but it's just been what works for us.
And then on set, we're flexible. If it's something, if it feels like something isn't working, Jen's the first person I turn to be like, we gotta figure this out. Yeah. Hit me.
When you're working with some producers, is there ever a scenario on this where someone raises a red flag, whether it's in the script stage where it could be a concern, or if you want to be a little more fluid with something on set and change something on the spot where someone's like, no, don't do that. We can't accommodate it.
Not with this one. Our producers were so lovely. Mallory Schwartz started working with us 5 years ago, and so she's been there for every iteration of this movie and our relationship and our personal development.
I was going to say she's become like our child, but she's really become our mother.
Yeah.
She's younger than us.
So she knows. I mean, she knows what my priorities are. So the only time I ever got pushback was if she felt she needed to remind me of a priority that I had stated that it seemed like I was forgetting, which rarely happened because I don't forget my priorities. But, it would be like, you had said that this was important to you. If you want to go again on this or you want to try it a totally different way, it's going to eat into this scene that you really wanted to reserve these hours for. And that was the way of working that we established early on. And it was the same with my line producer. It was always like, I can give you that. This is what it will cost you in these other things that you've already told me are important.
What were some of the scenes that you prioritized? I mean, even, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but the ones that come to mind from the beginning, the oneer in the house, the tracking shot. I love the scene with Mandy's speech.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the funniest things in the movie. Is there any particular scene that you said to yourself, this is where we should prioritize our schedule?
Well, the opening shot, we really worked to carve out the right amount of time because it was the end of a very long day. I think it was our only day of exteriors with the theater.
And we had shut down 13th Street.
Right. So that was stressful. And we lay the track. We also had to make adjustments just for budgetary reasons because I wanted a really big I wanted the opening shot to say, like, this is a big movie. So in my mind, it was a crane shot. And then, I talked to my line producer, and she was like, that's not the budget we have. Although she did everything to make it work. Anyway, so we lay the 100 feet of track. My DP is so giddy. He's lighting the street. He's got this condor down the street. And they turn the light on, and 5 minutes later, the cops show up because we're keeping everybody in the other building awake. And so we have to spend another hour flagging the light, and then he has to adjust all of the lighting on the street because we had all these plant lights and all this. And by the time we actually started shooting that scene, which is I wanted it to be a wonder, but I'm not insane. I think we talked about this. I also wanted there to be coverage, just in case. Threw that out. I was like, this is a wonder, and we're going to get it in 2 takes because that is what we have time for.
It's a wonder, and a good wonder that establishes the atmosphere of New York City. I love it.
I happened to be on set still that day, I think out of nerves. I don't know if you had asked me to be or if I just told you I was going to be, but I was like, I'm going to stay. And I was with the producers in Village just sweating with the cans on. I was just like, they got it.
Well, because it was going to be the walk in a wonder, and then once we got to our positions, we were going to get close-ups just, in case. But who wants a close-up? Not me.
Out of these 2 mugs.
That's when you get some of the best stuff, though. It's like that happy magic that comes out of, being restricted with your budget and your time and everything.
Yeah, holding your breath. Yeah, it was funny. The things that we planned for, the scenes I anticipated requiring extra care, tended to actually be the easiest when it came down to shooting them. And if anything, it was just the anxiety of the preparation that made them take longer. So that's a lesson I'll take away.
What are your on-set vices? Like, if you have anxiety or need to, chill out or just need energy, is it, I don't know, coffee?
Diet Coke.
I always say I only drink DC on set, but I'll say it's DC. I was hiding them for a while because I'm so embarrassed because they're terrible for you.
We do that in the office, but not because I'm embarrassed, but because if I buy them and I put them here, someone
else will drink
them. They're gone.
There was a point at which we had Sophia, who's a dear friend of ours, who Hannah had work as her assistant, so we could have her there. At one point was dutifully buying me secret Diet Dr. Peppers and bringing them to me in paper bags as if they were malt liquor, because I was like, just keep them in the bag and put a straw in them. People would be like, what are you drinking? And I'm like, green tea. I have to have it. I love a caffeinated fizzy when I'm on set. That's my vice. And we'll leave it at that.
I feel like it makes it better calling it a caffeinated fizzy. From now on, I'm not going to use Diet Coke. I'm just going to repeat that.
Yeah, uppy fizzy.
I think I'm just generally consumptive. I have no idea what I eat or drink on set.
Like snap peas and pieces of vegan cheese.
Or whatever
You're not eating Doritos with
was
the
in
rest of us.
Sophia's hand.
Yeah, that's true.
I basically just ate whatever was in Sophia's hand.
We also had Hannah. I was very proud of this. She made sure our set was as green as possible, and that meant trying to eradicate water bottles, which is a problem on a lot of sets. You've got thousands of these tiny plastic water bottles. So wasteful.
So many.
We had gotten all of the cast and crew these small, deflatable roll-up water bottle space bags. They look like colostomy. There it is. Colostomy bags with a carabiner. But the problem is they hold about a thimble of water. So what you ended up seeing was all of us running back and forth between these water jugs, just gotta fill it up again.
That's a pretty good on-set gift to give to make sure everybody. I think I did a water bottle one year, and it was one of the smarter moves.
It's nice, and then if you actually hang on to it and don't lose it on set, you have a little
marketing
souvenir.
And then people walk around with it.
Although the hats that we made everyone that said "stupid happy."
Well, now it's a collector's item. You should put them all on eBay.
Right. They were also more red than we anticipated.
And they looked like
they kind of looked like manga hats. Yeah.
Oops. They're meant to be like a rich fuchsia, like a pink almost. And every
a
time I
dusty
wore
rose.
Well, At least it was just 2 words, but one of our friends who's in the cast, Alexander Schwartz, made us a couple of ones with the correct title very sweetly. And now that it's even more text, it looks even more like Make America Great Again, because it is Before You Know It. And I tried to wear it out on a hike the other day, and I kept getting looks, and I was like, I must be glowing today. And I realized it's because people thought I was in a Trump hat.
All right. Yeah, I think I received an unnamed movie sent me a bright red hat semi-recently, and not wearing that hat.
No, you mustn't.
Before we have to wind this down, I want to make sure our viewers get to know you guys a little bit. So just a bunch of random questions. I don't have my list here, but I'm just going to pull out the ones I remember right now. First off, what are you watching right now? It could be anything. A new movie, a new TV show, something you're catching up on, anything at all.
I'll go fast.
Yeah,
Years and years. I love Euphoria.
Yes.
I'm pro Euphoria, very much so. I know it's a polarizing show, but I think it's brilliant and beautiful. And I just rewatched Border, which is my favorite film of the last 3 years.
Good call.
I also love Border. I just saw it for the first time. The new season of Fleabag is everything. New season of Killing Eve. We just started watching the new season of Mindhunter.
I can't wait.
I love it. I just love it. And I've been watching a lot of older movies, a lot of classics that I have never seen, and a lot of rom-coms because I'm writing one right now for Miss Janifuer.
I like the sound of that.
I like it. I have a little love in my life, one of these flicks.
If you guys had to get a movie-related tattoo, what would it be and why?
Oh. Do you know? Go ahead.
I do. Hedwig and the Angry Inch was super meaningful to me when I was a teenager. I was like figuring out that I was queer, and the art in it is, I think, really beautiful. And unfortunately, it turned into a tattoo that a lot of young queer theater nerds got, but it's beautiful. It's just a face, and I've almost gotten it many times while drunk. But I think I probably would. But I also have a neck. So Funny Girl's the movie that changed my life. I love Barbra Streisand, and I have a gold necklace that says bagel instead of a name. And so I'd always thought about, I have some stick and poke tattoos that say things. I thought about getting bagel for Fanny Brice / Barbra Streisand, maybe on the other arm. What would yours be?
That's a good one.
Mine would probably just be text. It would probably say, like, don't cut, let's go again right away.
Very appropriate for the path you're on right now. Do either of you have any pets?
No.
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 We travel too much.
That's understandable.
It's hard.
Yeah, I
got some
can't.
pet peeves.
What are your pet peeves? You just played right into it.
I don't know why I've turned into Ernest Borgnine today. I'm really loopy. I'm sorry.
Well, now I want to know, what's your pet peeve?
I actually don't have
Do you have an onset pet peeve? Something where if it happens, it gets under your skin quicker than other things?
As an actor, I do, and it's something she never does, which is why I love working with her, which is she never, I mean, within reason, of course, if it's a long day and you're worried about time, you have to stop people, but when directors cut off an improv to offer their own funny line, whoo, that is a spicy no-no for me. I cannot. I will completely, you won't see it on my face, but internally, I will completely take any ounce of respect I had for you and blow it into the wind.
Understandable.
Yeah.
This is really specific to one person that I worked with.
Ooh, I wonder if we can guess who it is.
But my pet peeve became confusing treating the actors well and with respect with crossing firm boundaries.
Oh.
Okay.
Like asking the oh, you know what? I can't do it without outing them. Yep. That's it.
Got the gist of what you're getting at, but probably better off not sharing details.
Yeah. I also when I got in the chair in the morning, any kind of like small talk wound up being very difficult for me because I would be getting into hair and makeup, and it seemed like I was just getting into hair and makeup, and for any other person getting into hair and makeup, it would have been fine. But I was like going over the shot list in my mind, trying to take a moment of not speaking before the day of speaking constantly began. So that became a peeve.
I've
But
actually never pictured that for someone who is both acting in a movie and directing it. That makes a lot of sense. I'm surprised I haven't thought about that before.
it's a bummer. Yeah, and it wound up becoming like a peeve with myself also because I was like, why can't I just multitask better? Why can't I just hear about your day right now?
And to wrap up right now, I love ending on this question because it makes me happy. What is one thing happening in the industry or one individual that you think is changing it for the better?
Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Yes.
I agree with that.
That's a good answer.
I'm so happy she's in the world. It makes me emotional. I feel like the good guys are winning when I see the work that she's making. And I shouldn't say guy. I shouldn't gender it. The good people. Because I know that would probably be the response from a lot of like-minded people, and I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I agree. I agree also with.
And in addition to.
I think the work that Luca Guadagnino is doing is changing the landscape in a way that I really appreciate.
I wholeheartedly agree with that one as well. Call Me By Your Name was my #1 of 2017.
Thank you.
And Suspiria was one heck of a ride recently.
Oh my God, I love Suspiria. What a turn on, right?
I just can't believe
I
I
thought
don't
Call Me By Your
necessarily
Name.
call it a turn on, but it's just like between we also have a horror podcast here called The Witching Hour, and just between the witchy danciness of that movie and then if you ever go see Climax, oh my. Those two movies just like still have my head spinning. Highly
I was
recommend
told
it.
recently that my response to that question is typically Yorgos Lanthimos because I think and Ruben Östlund because I think they're are two for all greatest living filmmakers. But other than Hannah, when somebody was like they're both men, and I said yes, they are. You're correct. They are both men, and I hope that my answer to that and those genres is not the same very soon. So could you hurry up, please?
Yes.
Just make 8 more movies.
Yeah, I'm working.
Can you
working
please
on
make
it.
a horror movie? Would you ever?
I would love to.
You would be great
Okay,
at a
that's
horror
right up
movie.
my alley. So
Yeah,
that
with
always
the right
excites me.
script. I don't know that I would write a horror movie very well, but I would be very interested in directing someone else's well-written horror movie. So if you have any.
Well, funny you should say that. I'll tell you about this later, but we have to wrap up this conversation. So I want to say thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank
It was
you.
so
It's
nice
so
to
good to
talk
see you
again
again.
about this movie. Guys, before you know it, in theaters, 100 theaters specifically. That's something else. August 30th. Do check it out. Trust me, you are going to enjoy it. Is there anywhere on the internet our viewers can find you, social media, websites, anything like that?
We're both on Instagram. That's my primary platform. And
The movie has a website now.
yes, Before You Know It. Movie. You
Wait,
know what?
no.
Just Google Before You Know It, Hannah Pearl Utt. How about that? Or
Yes.
Sundance.
But if you want to get in touch with us directly, Instagram.
We're on Instagram.
Message.
And Before You Know It is also on Instagram. If you look up Before You Know It Film on Instagram.
Cool.
Yeah.
Get on that, guys. Go check it out. Also, do not forget to like and share this video or the podcast wherever you are listening or watching. And stay tuned because we're going to have more interviews for you real soon.